Well, welcome to MHA Nuggets. Tonight we were going to have some presentations about tours of current mining operations. And as I said, we have three people. And so I don't know if Mike or Mark want to fight about who's going to go first.
Why don't you let Mark go first?
Okay.
That's fine, Mike.
All right. Let's see.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
So, sure.
Can you hear me, Jack Crawford?
Yes.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jack, how are you?
Good.
I invited Jack to join us because Jack's an old Kennecott hand, and I know he's interested in a lot of this stuff. So I'm glad to have you along, Jack.
Very good. Well, I see this first slide up there mentions the Buick mine, and I did have some familiarity with Missouri, the new lead belt also.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Can you get me to full screen, Barb?
Okay, well, I was trying the one at the top and that wasn't doing it.
Yeah, I think all you have to do is, there we go. Well, here's the deal. I almost didn't have a presentation, and then I discovered that I had some things that I could show you. Lynn and I have been very fortunate to get into a lot of active mines over the years, in part because of our historical connection, but also because of the work I did in the industry for a decade or so. And I was hoping to show you a whole bunch of interesting things, including the last operating uranium mine in the Blind River district up at Elliott Lake, the Stan Lee mine, which is operated by a client, or was operated by a client of mine. And we got underground up there just before the mine was shut down and decommissioned. Very interesting. It's a huge room and pillar mine on a paleoplacer deposit of uranium. And that whole story of the Blind River uranium mines is amazing. And maybe I'll do a paper for a conference sometime on it. And then continuing the Canadian theme, we're going to take you down to the 68 level of the Kidd Creek mine at Timmins. We got down there. We got in a mine called the Hope McDermott, a gold mine, also northeast of Timmins. That was an interesting trip. Got down the Campbell mine in Red Lake, the Balmerton Red Lake district. And there we saw one of the most amazing sights I've ever seen in my life, a 3 cubic yard bucket on the front of an LHD that was full to the brim with visible gold, VG. The most astounding thing I think I've ever seen. And then another mine I was going to take you to was the Tanco mine, which was in a pegmatite located underneath Burnick Lake in Manitoba. It's probably only about 100 feet below the lake bed. Just an enormous room and pillar mine, mine for tantalite and spodumene. And there were spodumene crystals in that mine the size of telephone poles. It was just astonishing. But anyway, all the pictures from those mines are packed away somewhere and I couldn't find them. So I did find these pictures on my computer and I put together this program. These mines are both operating, although I will say right out of the blocks, the Buick is not in production. It's used for another purpose, and I'll get to that as we go ahead. So let's go to the next slide. Our first stop is the Musselwhite mine. Oops, I see the graphic overtook some of the text. Lynn and I went to the Musselwhite as a field trip from the Institute on Lake Superior Geology. It was May 2nd of 2012, I believe. It was operated by Goldcorp at that time. It's now operated by Newmont. And if you go to the next slide, you can talk about where it is. If you look to the lower right, you'll see Wisconsin, Minnesota, the upper Great Lakes, Lake Superior. You'll see Thunder Bay, and way up there near just straight west of James Bay is the Musselwhite. And by the way, the Musselwhite are the name of two brothers that were prospectors, and they found this particular deposit. How, I'll never know, because it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's a fly-in, fly-out. There is a winter road access in, and they sometimes use that for bringing in heavy machinery, but otherwise there's really very poor road access to it. It's fly-in, fly-out. The picture on the upper left shows you how it's situated. You can see the landing strip there to the far left. And the large lake is a Papamiskin Lake, and they have been doing drilling on the lake either by barge or more likely in the winter from the ice. So if we go to the next slide, it is an underground mine. The conference was in Thunder Bay. We boarded a Wasaya Airlines -7, a de Havilland -7. The mine contracts, Wasaya Airways is a First Nations owned and operated airline. It's a nice little short haul airline. They've got good equipment, good crews. And the mine contracts with Wasaya for all their transportation. Given that it's a fly-in, fly-out mine, they have a regular scheduled daily flight in and out of the mine, and sometimes 2 flights a day. So we boarded the morning flight and flew into the mine. Next slide, please. This should look familiar. Last time we got together, I talked about the Sudan mine, and Sudan mine, of course, is located in a spectacular banded iron formation. And guess what? Banded iron formation. You peel back the muskeg up there, and this is what you see. And yes, the Musselwhite mine is a gold mine. It's not mined for iron. It is mined for gold. And they have found a significant deposit of gold in the banded iron formation. Quite interesting. And it was apparently 2 metamorphic episodes, and the gold was placed in the second of those 2 episodes. Next slide, please. So anyway, we got ushered in, given the usual safety briefing, put into PPE. And if you look at the lower left, that's the decline that goes into the workings. If you look carefully, you can see fog at the bottom of the decline. It's always that way. This is a cold mine. It's not quite in permafrost, but darn close. They've had to chase various animals out of this mine, including elk and everything else. They sometimes wander down the decline. Okay, next slide, please. They took us on down, and I apologize for the quality of my underground pictures. Didn't turn out well this trip for some reason. But we got hauled down in these service trucks, very nice service trucks, down to the 780 Lynx ore body, which was one of 2 ore bodies that was being actively mined at this time. They took us to the working face, which they shut down for us for a day, which astounded me. They went in there the night before, the night shift. You always hear the night shift get blamed, but the night shift did spectacular work here. They bolted up the back, put in fresh screening. They pressure washed the working face, and you'll see some markings on the working face. They marked all the areas where gold showed up. So if we go to the next slide, you can see some of that screening in the upper left that they put in to keep that area safe for us. They marked all those areas where gold showed up. And I don't want to say it's visible gold, as it really isn't. But they looked carefully for gold mineralization in the banded iron formation that's exposed there in that ore body, and they marked it all. And then they handed us sample bags and said, go high grade. And, you know, there were 25 geologists in here with hammers and gold deposit and a go for it, and we did. I mean, we whacked and hacked at that thing and carried out a lot of sample bags full of rock. Next slide. Now, on the upper right, You can see some of the interesting mineralization in this banded iron formation. All those little pink blobs in the center, that's garnet. A lot of this formation has a lot of garnet in it, nice pink, kind of ruby red pink garnets. And there's very little VG in this mine. There is some. I've got some in my specimen cabinet, and you can see some of it in situ on the lower left there, and you can get an idea of when it runs rich, it runs really rich. That's a standard geologist. And that's a nice piece of gold hanging out. Next slide, please. Now we had to wait for the flight out, so we had the run of the place. These are the dorms up there, and you can, at this time, you could specify on your contract whether you wanted a 14-day in out, whether you wanted a 28-day in and out, but you're going to work 7 days a week. There was no 5-day a week and then a weekend. I mean, it was straight through. So a lot of these people were on 14-day contracts. They'd stay in the dorms and then they'd fly out for however long they contracted for. Maybe it was a week out, maybe it was a couple of weeks out, then they'd come back in. But the dorms were pretty nicely set up. And if you look in the background there, beyond the dorms, there are a couple of very nice facilities. They had an indoor curling rink, an indoor hockey rink. There's indoor curling and hockey rinks in Canada. They had basketball courts, gyms. They had an indoor driving range. It was an electronic driving range. This is a zero tolerance facility, both as to drugs and alcohol. So, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So in order to keep people happy and prevent mutiny, they had some pretty nice facilities there, including, as you can see in the lower left, a cafeteria that's open 24/7. It has 24/7, a live cafeteria line. It has vending machines. It has a full-time bakery. It has a pizza parlor. It has, you name it, and it's going 24/7. And we, like I say, we had the run of the place. We walked in and you could have whatever you want, however much you wanted. And again, that's how you prevent mutiny in these remote camps. The pathway between these dorms and those facilities has light posts about every, I would say 50 to 60 feet. There's a light post because it's dark up there a good chunk of the year. And on every light post, there's a box that has a telephone in it and a can of bear spray. So there's a lot of wildlife up there. Next slide, please. Okay, well, it came time for us to fly out. And as I mentioned, there was a bunch of geologists loose with sample bags and hammers in the mine, and there was quite some consternation as to whether all the rocks were going to exceed the load carrying ability of the Dash 7. So the departure was delayed while every sample bag was weighed and the flight crew worked out the center of gravity balance calculations for this airplane. But we got it all out as well as all the people. We survived the trip, and it was a heck of a trip. Next slide, please. Okay, we're headed way south now from Opapamisking Lake. Every year, I think they didn't have it this year because of COVID, but every year, Viburnum, Missouri has its local cultural event, which is called Old Miners Days. And Lynn and I went down to Missouri. We visited U of M Rolla while we were down there. We saw a few really nice caves down there, but we primarily went to go see Old Miners Days. And it's your typical small community festival. They have a flea market, they have a parade, they have a battle of the bands, and they have public tours of the Buick mine, which is part of the Viburnum Trend. The Buick mine is actually about 10 or 12 miles south of Viburnum. It's outside a little town called Bixby. And at the time, it was run by Doe Run. Oops, got to back up. Barb, it's running away. Barb.
There we go.
All right. Here we go. That's where I wanted. Oops. One more, Barb. Next slide. There we go. All right. You can see up in the upper left, there's a map showing Missouri, and the box where the viburnum trend is. Buick mine is just about halfway on that overall trend. You can see it in red there. A little more detail on the right. You can see that the Buick is actually physically connected with the Magmont and the Castile mine. There's another grouping of mines to the north which are numbered, and a couple of groupings of mines to the south. The Brushy Creek and the Fletcher are well known among mineral collectors, as is the Buick for that matter. And the Sweetwater down at the south end of the range, also quite a specimen collector's paradise. You notice the scale is 5 kilometer scale. These are big, big mines. The Buick is no longer in production. It's pretty well mined out, but it's used as a primary access for equipment, and we'll get on that subject in just a second. And they also have a production hoist there. They hoist ore and process it on the Buick site. The whole viburnum trend is very interesting. It's the successor to the old lead belt. They call this the new lead belt. And if you were at the Missouri MHA conference, you likely toured some other doe run facilities, but this operation is doe run. We can go to the next slide, please. So anyway, we were welcomed to the Buick mine as part of Old Miners Days. And it was kind of fun because the mine manager there at the time took a real shine to us, because it turns out he's a fellow Wisconsinite. And he was in his last year there. He was about to retire and return to Wisconsin. So when he found out we were from the Badger State, we got the royal treatment. Next slide. Now, we got herded onto the main service shaft there at the Buick, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this cage. You can only see a part of it in this photo on the left. It is the most unusual cage I've ever ridden, and I've ridden on a number. And part of the reason is this is the primary service shaft for all underground machinery in the Buick, well, all of the connected mines, the Buick, the Castile, the Magmont, all of those. And as you can see, there's a completely disassembled haul truck on the right, and that will be taken down in pieces and then assembled in the shop below. So we'll go to the next slide. And oops, yeah, I guess this is right. We went down to the 1,000 level. That's 1,000 feet below surface, and we're ushered off. They have offices and workshops down there. This is primarily a heavy equipment service facility underground at the foot of the shaft. Next slide. And it's big equipment. I mean, this is not your usual small scale or low profile equipment, I should say, that you commonly see in some mines that just do not have a very high overhead or much clearance to the back. This is big, big haulage equipment. Next slide. And as I said, they get it up and down with this particular cage. And I had a movie, and unfortunately the file size was too big and I couldn't send the video. So I have to show you this cage in 3 successive shots. On the upper left is the top of the cage. In the middle is the middle of the cage. And to the right is the bottom of the cage, which incorporates the man cage. And that whole thing from top to bottom is probably 40 or 45 feet high. And they do it that way so they can suspend awkward loads in that cage for hoisting. And the most awkward load I heard about down there, they actually dropped a school bus into the mine, a full-size school bus, by cranking it up vertically inside this cage and dropping it nose down all the way down, and then leveling it out and driving it away. A pretty amazing facility. Next slide, please.
So wait, what's the purpose of the school bus underground?
They specifically brought it down for a field trip of an international field trip of geologists.
Anything for those
Okay.
geologists.
But these room and pillar mines are, as I mentioned, they're enormous, and the drifts just go and go and go and go, and they're big. They're enormous, and the rock down there is quite competent. They really don't have to bolt a whole lot or screen a whole lot. The pillars seem to hold the back really well. They use pretty much conventional jumbo type drilling equipment for advancing work. Next slide. And they use large full-scale LHDs. Again, I had a video I was hoping to show you. These are primarily robotic. And if you look in the lower right shot, you can see the operator running the LHD. And they gave us a nice little demonstration of a robotic LHD working down there. And they're diesel powered. They're not electric. Everything is diesel powered down here. Next slide. And I just wanted to give you a sense of the scale. These openings down there, these mine openings are huge. And again, if you were at the Missouri conference, you probably went down the old Bonneterre mine. And I know some of you guys that are used to more confined mine workings were actually a little bit spooked that there were holes this big underground that would somehow stay up, but they do. It's pretty remarkable. You're 1,000 feet underground here, and there are these huge categories that if you turn left, you probably could go 1.5 miles down that drift, and if you turn right, you can probably go about 4 miles down that drift. It's pretty astonishing. Next slide. So back to surface we went. Next slide. And then we went over to the mill, and this is a pretty conventional mill, either ball mills to handle the ore as it comes to surface. Next slide. And then a big flotation plant. And again, they're recovering primarily zinc. There's a little bit of some rare earths coming out of here, and a little bit of, what am I thinking of? Oh.
Gallium?
Yeah, there's a little bit of gallium and a little bit of germanium. Some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But they're recovering it here, and it's a state-of-the-art mill. Next slide.
And some of those concentrators actually have two concentrates. They produce both a lead and a zinc concentrate.
Yes, that's correct. Today they're not producing a very big zinc fraction, though. It's almost all lead, almost 100%. The zinc fraction now is down to, I think, less than 5%. Next slide. And again, it's your typical state-of-the-art mill. Everything is pretty well computer controlled out of a air-conditioned control room. And I think the whole mill works with a staff of less than a dozen. And I think that's it. Next slide. Yep, they're pretty proud of this. They operate a safe mine. They've got a big staff, and they're still in operation and expect to be for a while yet. And that's about all I've got to say. Thanks. Next slide. I guess does it all. But these were a couple of interesting mines still in operation, and they gave interesting tours.
I worked at the Sweetwater mine when it was part of Ozark Lead Company in Kennecott in the 80s. I have been to the Buick a couple times. I was a mine geologist there. Started my career off at it was a Sweetwater break arm Milliken. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you know very well that the viburnum's a really interesting deposit.
Oh yeah, well
it's probably got 30 more years, maybe up to 50 years left in the Sweetwater deposit. I worked in the number 8 ore body. Now they're in the number 7, 6, and 5. So it is a really neat experience.
Yeah,
I've
it's
been down there
amazing.
several times and knew Harold Kruger and visited the property, so we might very well have met.
Harold was retired the year I started. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, I go back 40 years going down there.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Any other questions for Mark? Okay. Bye, Eric. All right. Now we'll go to Mike.
Okey doke.
And can you all see that?
No.
All right. Share screen. There we go.
Oh, very good.
There you go.
Well, I took a little different approach to what Mark did. I'm taking it from sort of answering the question, if you were the man on the street, where would you go to see an operating mine? And you know, it's not all that easy in many places to do that, particularly other than in the summertime when if there are a few mine tours. But the one place, you know, absent COVID, that you could see an operating mine most of the time is down below Tucson at the Asarco Mission Complex. And it's actually right on the main highway away from it a little ways is the Asarco Minerals Discovery Center, which is a public kind of museum about mining. And it's really well done. They have that truck you see there is sitting in the outside area of the Discovery Center. But after you've walked around the museum for a while, you can board a bus and they'll take you out to Mission, which is maybe a couple of miles away. And, you know, it's a huge open pit, not unlike some of the others that everybody has seen. Has a very nice mill. And they're producing copper, and I'm assuming moly. I don't remember exactly what the production numbers were when I was there. These pictures were taken about 3-4 years ago. So I did notice on their website that they're closed for because of the coronavirus, but they'll be back in business, and this is really an asset to the community down there because it is one of the few places you can actually tour both the mine and the mill. So I'd highly recommend that if anybody's down there in the Sun Belt, right below Tucson, they want to see a mine.
Mike, it's the original mine south of Tucson. It was originally built in about 1959, so it's just over 60 years old now. And over the years, it has absorbed the old Pima operation.
Right. Yeah, I took a look at it on Google Earth when I was sorting out these old slides, and yeah, it's a pretty amazing place. It really covers a lot of ground, and the mill is very modern actually inside. So it's a great place to see a mine if you have a hankering to go visit a big open pit copper mine. Let's go to the next one, Barb. Okay, here's a couple of others. And I've sort of collected slides at a lot of these places, but I have to admit that I've never been to the mines I have been to the mines in Elko and the Carlin Trend. So the one below is Newmont. I have that there because, first of all, we're going to see some of the Newmont operations when we have our ill-fated 2020 conference next June. And it'll be very, very interesting to see. So I won't say much more than that, except that from a public standpoint, Newmont does conduct public tours during the summertime out of Elko. So the other place on the top, and this is Jack Crawford's old stomping ground here. This is Bingham Canyon, of course. Many of you probably know that Bingham's Visitor Center was taken out by the landslide. And so they now have a brand spanking new visitor center on the south side of the pit. And that means you kind of come in from where the old U.S. smelting and refining Lark mine was back in the day. and it's got a really nice overlook spot. You can really see the pit well.
Well, the road actually from Lark goes up the old rail waste dumps
Is that right? Wow.
and comes in on what was the old Code 51 main haul road from the pit
Yeah, wow.
and goes in there.
Another one of
It's
these pits. Another one of these pits that just keeps growing and growing, and
it's over 4,000 feet deep now.
yeah, amazing, just amazing. Let's.
Well, it's interesting. I've got some pictures. I've got some pictures from 1966, and it's amazing the change that's taken place in 50 years.
Jack, when do you think they'll go underground there?
I'm going to guess, based on things I've read, they're probably going to be looking at beginning to develop that seriously in probably the 2030s.
Mm-hmm. So this deposit's going to be operating a long time.
Oh Lord, yes. This is really going to be one of the few open pits where there's enough ore at depth that you'll really see it where you've got a true open pit underground economic trade-off.
Right. Well, I think everybody recognizes at least the upper picture here on this slide. This is the Cripple Creek and Victor mine, or the Crescent mine, and it's not owned by it has new owners, and I'm not sure whether it's Newmont or who these days. But I think when we had the Cripple Creek Mining History Association tour, you may have toured that. And on the right-hand side is, I think, the Portland mine head frame, the old Portland head frame, or the Vindicator, I'm not sure. But
Vindicator,
yeah,
I think.
yeah, it looks a little bigger. Yeah. And of course, they've done a pretty darn good job of preserving a lot of the old buildings there. As the pit has expanded, it has mined out a lot of the old undergrounds, and when the Mining History Association visited this pit, they had a chance to go up to the American Eagles overlook, which I think is in the upper left-hand corner. Ed, you may be able to guide me better. I think this is looking south, isn't it? Anyway.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah,
anyway, within the last couple of years, they've moved all the stuff that was up there at the American Eagles down to along a highway that goes between Victor and Cripple Creek. So it's very publicly accessible, and it's not sitting on ore. At least I assume it isn't.
That's why I'm confused about the angles, about where it is today and where it was then.
Yeah, right. I'm thinking this picture is sort of looking south and that Victor's just over that far hill, but I could be totally wrong on that. But anyway, this is a very nice mine tour. You get onto the mine tour at the Victor and Lowell Thomas Museum there in Victor, and they do a nice job taking visitors. It's a nominal cost, and I think it goes to support the museum, actually. I will say this, is a lot of these company-sponsored mine tours, most all of them take place in the summer. And most of them these days are charging some amount of money, but a lot of times it's going to local charities and things. So you don't mind spending a few bucks to just to have a good mine tour, and you're doing some good with the admission charges. And I had to throw the lower quarry in because this is up at Barry, Vermont, home of Rock of Ages granite, which you can find probably in most tombstones in the eastern half of most graveyards in the eastern half of the country anyway. There's, of course, a number of areas in Vermont that produce various forms of marble and granite. This is a very famous one. You can also, when you visit this quarry, it's really an overlook thing. But you can also tour the shops where they take a big block of granite and make it into stuff. And they have a wonderful museum of carved granite sculptures. Most all of this work was done by Italian immigrants back in the day, but they're still going along. And it's a very interesting tour. I haven't been here for quite a number of years, but I did look it up, and it's still an operating mine tour. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, again, with the idea of telling people about where an average person on the street could go see a mine, I think one of the key things is you shouldn't overlook is the overlooks, because it is sometimes not too easy to get on a mine tour, but there are many good places that you can see a significant amount of mining going on. Of course, this is on the left is the Hibbing taconite pit that we had a reception at the Mining History Association a few years ago. And to the right is the extension of that pit that goes east from Hibbing. Chisholm is up here on this ridge up above the pit, the far left ridge. And this is a very interesting thing. In Iron World, the place where we had the conference, is sitting up on that ridge, I think. Mention one other thing, though. You know, in Colorado, there are a few tourist mine tours, but one of the things you can't go underground is the Climax molybdenum mine, but you can see an awful lot about what's going on there just from the highway. And if possible, if the road is open, it's great to just drive up that hill across from the mine. And you get a wonderful view. This is a roadside view here, but you can look right down into the glory hole. You can see that the ore body was originally a donut-shaped affair, and it's a neat place to see. Leadville's 11 miles off to the left of this picture, so a lot of things to see out in that part of the country. And I think there's maybe just one more. No, a couple more. Okay, overlooks. Okay, these pictures here were taken at Morenci after the Silver City meeting of the Mining History Association. So as we've talked before on some of these copper pits, they go on and on forever. I mean, there's numerous mines that have been engulfed by the Morenci pit. It's largely a leaching operation. And there's several places along the state highway that goes right through the operating area where you can get various views of the things that are going on at Morenci. I don't know what the current status is. I know it has been possible at various times in the summer to visit other parts of the Freeport operations there at Morenci, but I don't know what the current status is. And then the lower picture is the Ray mine operated by ASARCO up just below Superior. And this is a place that has a great overlook. Man, you can see a good portion of the pit and a lot of the shop facilities right from this overlook. So it's another good public place where people can see a mine. Let's go to the next one, Barb. Oh, and of course you can, as we know from Silver City, you can just walk right up to the edge of the Chino pit there. So that's another good overlook. There's probably quite a few I've missed, but these are the ones that I had some pictures of. And then just lastly, I think we have one more slide. Yeah, this is sort of just a couple of observations. You know, if you were a mine operator, tours can be pretty disruptive to your day-to-day stuff. And of course, you got all kinds of mine and safety and health regulations that have to be followed. So as all the MHOers know, because they've heard the spiel before, you get a briefing on safety, which is pretty minimal usually. But But a lot of mines don't give tours because of these aspects. However, I found one of the best things you can do is just call the mine office a few days in advance. And if they don't give tours, they might give you one. And that's happened to me and my family a number of times. I recall a visit. We were going across from the typical family Western trip from the Black Hills over to Yellowstone. And we stayed in a town not too far from the Montana border that evening. And I said to the kids, I said, hey, you've never been to Montana. Let's go see Montana. And I said, well, we're there. We might be able to go to a coal mine. So I called them up. I said, sure, if you can be here at 1 o'clock, we'll take you on a tour. And I found that happens a lot of places. I'm big on industrial tours. So, you know, on the website, we've got a lot of other examples, of course. And we've got some of these virtual field trips that I've mentioned before. But, you know, it is getting hard a lot of places to visit mines. If you have local mining operations, and this means everything from rock quarries or gravel pits or whatever, and you have a group, a lot of times the mine is much more amenable to having a group, particularly if you have like Boy Scouts or something like that. Even church groups, you know, they'll go out of their way usually to try to accommodate a tour, even if they're not giving general public tours. And Mark, I don't know whether you know what's going on up in Marquette or not. I know Cliffs used to, when they had the Empire running, they used to operate through the Chamber of Commerce and take tours in the summertime, but I don't know.
As far as I know, Cliffs is not doing public tours right now. I don't know if that's a matter, I suspect it's a matter of economics.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But
Because they stopped even before
yeah,
COVID.
right. And actually the tours we had for the conference, we had to separately negotiate. They were not running tours at that time.
Right.
Now, the Eagle Mine, however, does run tours both to the mill and to the mine site. They can't take you underground, of course, but they do tour the water treatment facility and some of their surface rock management facilities there. And they run weekly tours during the summer months up there for the public, general public.
I think that
Right.
was on for COVID also.
Yeah, and I think COVID has impacted that. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I don't imagine
their normal
too many
practice.
places are open for tourists this time of the year.
I want to second what Mike said about it doesn't hurt to ask. Lynn and I, on the trip we took to the bottom, or then bottom of the Kidd Creek mine up in Timmins, was based on a cold call. And as it turned out, they had an employee who had been injured on the job, and they wanted to avoid LTI time for him. So they had assigned him to us and said, you know, take care of him. And so he said, where do you want to go and what do you want to do? And we said, well, we don't know the mine. Show us around. And we basically spent the whole day either or underground or at the top of the head frames or whatever. They could avoid LTI for this guy. And he was a great guy. He had the keys to everything, and we went just about everywhere in that mine.
That's terrific.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got just one more presentation. This is from Henry Gerlev. He could not be here tonight. So he gave me some notes and the pictures. And his is the new Mahoning Hill Rust Mine Overlook. They are, as you can see, well, you can't see, they are redoing the visitors overlook. The original mine view at the north edge of Hibbing has probably existed since the early 1920s or earlier. Over 30 separate iron mining operations, both underground and open pit, eventually joined to form one large open pit that's 3 miles long, 2 miles wide, and almost 600 feet deep. Mining began in 1895 with the Mahoning mine and continues today with the Hibbing taconite mine owned by Cleveland Cliffs.
I'd just like to point out one thing, Barbara. Right there behind that large tire, that is Bob Dylan singing "The Times They Are A-Changing."
Where is that?
Behind the truck, behind the tire.
Good point. He's the favorite son of Hibbing.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, they've moved this sign to the new site. And come on, it worked earlier.
Try rolling it. Your finger.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was a old photo from 1951 with the 1 millionth visitors being honored. It was a family of 4 from southern Minnesota. Here is a model of the new visitors. That first picture that we were looking at is somewhere about in here, right? I believe. They're still working on the buildings there. You saw the old mine truck out here. Oh, no, the mine truck there. And this is what they have so far. They got a nice big mine truck and bits and pieces, and then a nice caged overview here with little picture holes. And that's what he had for this. And so let's see, they are scheduled to have the tourist center finished by 2022. So you can go up there, and I guess they're going to have a very nice exhibits and things for tourists to see then.
Yeah, good.
And that's it for our meeting, unless anybody has some other pictures they can put up.
You look like you have a happy cat there.
Yeah. If he's not on my shoulder, he's on.
Aw.
Oh,
What's the
Very
cat's
good.
name, Barb?
That's Daffodil.
Daffy.
Uh-huh.
We got him up in February, and he was 6 months old and just yellow as can be. And so just like the daffodils that were out, but we call him
Aw.
Daffy. Okay. For 2021, I guess we will continue having MHA Nuggets. Does anybody have a day, time? Probably Friday at this time is probably not working for some people. So is there another day of the week and another time, keeping in mind that we have a 4-hour, we've got people in each time zone. Is this a good general time? With 7 o'clock Central, 6 Mountain?
This works for
You're
me.
talking to a bunch of retirees,
Okay. Well, there's still some that are working.
I wish I was retired.
Well, I told Nystrom he wouldn't do it. Retire in place.
I think the only bad day of the week for Zoom that I've experienced is Monday. It seems a lot of organizations have Zoom stuff on Mondays. So
Okay.
I don't know whether that's just me or what. So.
Well, we'll try it and see what all happens. I have had a couple people offer to do presentations. So we'll probably just go by the month and if people want to put together presentations, I'm going to figure out how to make it so that whoever's doing the presentation can do their own slide work. I'm still figuring this out. Last month I was back in Colorado and I just had my travel computer. So this is the first time I've been on my real computer. But there are some other things that we can do with Zoom to kind of make the process more seamless. So I guess we just keep an eye out for the MHA newsletter, or on Facebook. We'll have the schedule for, probably do it in 3-month increments.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
In light of the idea of we're trying to increase our membership and things like that,
Uh-huh.
do you have any objection to me handing out information about the actual Zoom meeting?
Oh, no.
To students and faculty at Mines? Is that okay?
Yeah. And anybody is welcome.
Okay.
My sister's been on most of them, but I don't know where she is today. So yeah, have friends, family, people you don't know, just get them on here. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Okay. We might be able to stir up some new members.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we're looking at. And then also getting the younger members involved in technology. It hasn't quite worked yet, but we'll keep this up.
Okay.
And then as we get closer to the decision time for the conference, we might have to look at, if we can't all get together in Elko, doing Zoom. Maybe having some sort of a mini conference. Stop that. Something.
We want to go in person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want to see you all.
But
And on the other hand, I will say that this is the nicest Zoom meeting that I have attended, and I've been involved in a lot.
That's because we haven't got it insulting yet.
That's right.
I think we ought to have Elko declare itself a free enterprise zone or something.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us, and I will be putting this on the Mining History Association, all one word, channel on YouTube in the next couple days if you want to revisit it or point other people to it and show them how much fun they are missing and how much information.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And
Barb.
for
And
inviting us, Lynn and Barb, both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good, thanks.
Everybody
Thank you
have a
very
Merry
much.
Christmas and a Happy
Yeah.
New Year. We'll see you all.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas to you all also.
Okay,
Take care, Mike.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.